right, good morning, everyone. This morning, I held a roundtable discussion with our state's attorney, Ivan Bates, our health commissioner, Dr. Terraza, the leadership of We, Our, Us, and Pastor Donald Wright to discuss what strategies we can implement this summer together to keep our young people safe. As I've said since day one of my administration, I will always take a completely holistic approach to gun violence and public safety. My job as mayor is to hear from our community partners consistently and faith leaders who I consider to be a part of our first response to this public health crisis. While we've always worked together, today we really talked about how we further that deep commitment to not double down, but triple down on our efforts to make sure we aren't leaving anything on the table. And I want to say that again. These are folks that we work with consistently each and every day throughout Baltimore, but we want to further deepen that partnership. I want you all to hear from our state's attorney, Pastor Burton, and Pastor Wright about their commitment, and anyone else who talks about what we're going to be committed to help curb the violence in our community. Understand that what's happening across our city regarding our young people and youth violence is an inability to resolve basic conflict, not understanding the history from what they come from, growing up with emotional and other challenges, being in households that need lots of supports and services. And that is part why, because we have adults in our city who are failing to set an example for our youth and failing to properly spend time and invest in them. Our adults need to take on responsibility and accountability for who their children are hanging out with, where they're hanging, and what they're doing when they're away from home. But we as a community also have to be willing to step up to fill those gaps for those young people that don't have that. In particular, as I've said for many, many, many years, this message in particular is for men in Baltimore. These young men want that leadership. They want that guidance. They want a man in their life to help them show them what it's truly like to be a man, what that example is, not the example that they've seen or the lack of an example that leads to many of the things that we have today. And I've said it again and I'll say it once more. It's going to take every single member of our community to support our youth. None of us can do that alone. Community partnership and deep focus is how we're going to tackle this issue, but specifically community partnership with those who have been doing the work and proven to have those results. Collecting that information from our community partners to discern how we can connect all of the programs and things that are happening and expand their reach throughout our community is what we will continue to do each and every day. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to our state's attorney.
Good morning. Today was a very good conversation with a number of the community leaders, with the mayor. You know, from our standpoint, the state's attorneys, sometimes we get these individuals at the tail end, unfortunately. And sometimes some of the vicious actions, unfortunately, we have to deal with some of the young people in the adult system. Our goal is to partner as well with all the organizations to figure out what we can do to hopefully make sure these individuals do not come to my office in that tail end situation. When you do come, you've done a violent act, we're going to have to try to put you in jail, unfortunately. And that's not what we want. We know your family doesn't want that, the community doesn't want that. So we want to make sure that we partner to figure out what we can do to help you alleviate and not be in that situation. But it's not just going to be the people you see up here, it's got to be the parents as well. So we're going to be looking to find ways, what we can do to make sure we hold the parents accountable because they're your children. You have to raise your children. As a father of a 6-year-old little girl, I get it. It's hard. It's a rough job. It's 24/7. There are no days off. When I'm sick and I don't feel good, I still have to be the parent. And the parent sometimes has to say no. So what we're realizing is that we're focusing on our young people because I'm tired of waking up and hearing about another youth dead in our streets. I'm tired of getting an email of issuing another arrest warrant for a 15-year-old that's pulled the trigger and taken the life of a 17-year-old. We don't want that to happen. We have to do our jobs as your leaders, But parents, we ask you to help us as you do your jobs as well. Thank you.
First, I want to say thank you to the mayor for inviting We Are Us to this sit-down roundtable. And one of the things about We Are Us, thank you, Mr. State's Attorney, you can answer that. One of the things about We Are Us, if you look at our name as We Are Us, one of the things that we believe in is partnerships. We cannot do this work by ourselves. We want to thank the mayor for bringing strategic partners to the table today to listen and to hear. We were able to come up with some strategic planning. And as the state's attorney said, our focus is our young people. We're looking to partner with DJS. We're looking to partner with our state's attorney's office, with the Department of Social Service. We believe that we can help, but it's going to take strategic partnerships. We're looking forward to working with our recs. We are also looking forward to working with our school systems. We believe that we have a plan and we have a blueprint that can be included to help reach our young men, especially here in the city of Baltimore. We have to get ahead of everything. We got to be proactive. We believe that the plans that are being put in place now would allow us to be more beneficial, to be proactive, and also to help, again, our young people. Our focus right now is our young people. As we head into our summer months, we want to make sure that we have strategic planning that's going to help our young people and give them a safe place that they can go to, give them other alternatives, give them other options. And I believe that's what this roundtable was all about today. So We Are Us, we're absolutely looking forward to this opportunity to partner with the mayor's office and all of the other strategic partners. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning. My name is Donald Wright. I'm the executive pastor of the Mount Lebanon Church in West Baltimore. Today's roundtable was what was definitely one that was empowering. We had all of our partners here at the table. We Are Us, our health department, state's attorney's office, of course, our mayor. And as a member of the faith community, we stand ready and willing to help in any way. We know that God is a God that is not just concerned about us spiritually, but God is concerned about every aspect of our community. God is concerned about us holistically, and so God is concerned about the crime. God is concerned about blight. God is concerned about every aspect of our city. And so, as a man of God, as a man of faith, we're not just saying it from the pulpits of our churches. We're not just saying it from 11 to 1 on Sunday mornings, but even in City Hall, we stand ready and willing to help, to support, and to lend our hands to our mayor and to the efforts that he is already begun to implement. And we know that he is a partner for the faith community, and he is concerned. Our concerns align together. The Word of God says that God is a very present help in the time of trouble. And a lot of times we look at God being a spiritual being that is just sitting up in heaven, helping us from heaven. But God is calling these organizations to be helped. God is calling us as men, as women of our city to be helped. God is calling all of us to do this work that we, for the city that we love, for the city that we live in, and for this city that we value so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Everybody, questions?
I have a couple questions, but I guess the first one is were there any solutions that came out of this roundtable? I mean, we talked about how everybody wants to work together, but to do what exactly?
So, I'll let some of the partners talk about that. Mackenzie, as I said in the beginning, this work is expanding, right? We all know how I, as a member, but also as the mayor, support We Are Us and the work that they do each and every day. And I think that this is a perfect time to remind folks about that work, where they are actually out on the streets, where they are training the young men who people don't want to deal with, who are shunned away from so many other programs, who have the ability to bring in other young people, who are the ones who are most likely to end up at the end of that gun or pulling that trigger. And because of the relationships, because of the strong men, because of the nature of the organization, they're able to impact that in a way that many organizations, quite frankly, cannot, because it does matter who the messenger is. Not the message is not the only thing that matters. And we're talking about, with our state's attorney, with my office, with BPD, with the health department, about how we can help them expand that reach in more places of the city. Focus that reach that they have in on young people that we know we need to make sure are getting the right attention from the right kind of adults with the right influence, giving them the right discipline so that we can see conflict be handled in a different way. And I would open it to see if anybody from We Are Us wants to continue that, or if that's good enough for you all. All right.
Last question. Do you have one more or no?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
So coming off of the weekend, I think somebody else wants to ask specifically about this weekend, but we know that the conversation around juvenile violence seems to be increasing. We're seeing more and more kids. 3 kids were just shot yesterday. A 12-year-old was killed on Saturday night. But we also know that this isn't just happening. Multiple students were killed and shot in January. So why is the enforcement of the curfew and these conversations about addressing juvenile violence just now happening?
Well, we'll just say we'll say this, Mackenzie, and I'll say this again. You weren't with us last week, but enforcing the curfew isn't simply about violence, right? And you're here, and these partners know this very well. Enforcing curfew is about doing what we have to do to keep young people safe. Period. You shouldn't have 8, 9, 10, 6. I've seen them as young as 4 and 5-year-olds come into our youth connection or curfew centers because they were out 11, 12, 1 a.m. at night, right? I think that anybody in the world that has a understanding of what it means to protect young people know that that shouldn't be allowed, period, right? Curfew for Baltimore is an enforcement thing all year round. But Baltimoreans know that summertime curfew is different. That Baltimoreans know in summertime, it's a cultural thing. As I'm walking throughout the streets of Baltimore, people aren't asking me why we're doing curfew or why we're bringing it back or why we wait to the summertime, because they know Memorial Day has always been. But when you're talking about what's happening with these young people, and again, I would always be remiss if I didn't point out that one life loss is too many, especially the life loss of a young person. But because of the work that's happening with the women and men of BPD, with the folks at We Are Rough, with our Safe Streets Violence Interrupters, we are still 16% down in homicides and over 16% in non-fatal shootings year over year. But we want more, and that's what we're talking about here today. This focus about dealing with young people didn't just start today. We had meetings in January and February about this. They've been doing this work each and every day. They have classes of young men that they're getting off the street that we're supporting them with to do this work each and every day. What you hear us talking about today is how we're doubling down on those efforts. But we also need to have accountability across the board. We need accountability for and working with parents to make sure that they know where their young people are, right, and know what they're into. We need accountability for other parts of the justice system that frustrate the state's attorney and I and the police department each and every day. All of it matters, Mackenzie, when we talk about this. We can't just make it as simple as curfew, and we will be disrespectful to these folks, to the women and men of the police department, to the state's attorneys, to the folks in Muncie and Safe Streets who are doing the work each and every day if we try to make it look like they haven't been doing that focus already.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Dave, thank you.
You mentioned you're going to double
Dave.
down, you're going to triple down. How are you going to do that?
Well,
And I also have a question for We Are Us. You said you have a blueprint in place. Would you explain some of that blueprint? Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
yeah, I think that what Dave, when you hear us talk about doubling and tripling down, and you're going to get a lot of that from them in a second. We have spent historic amounts of money focused on community partners to do violence work, right? This is something that we typically haven't done in Baltimore. We've always put that solely on the backs of BPD. This is not a either or. This is a both and choice. But being able to help them expand the work that they're doing in Park Heights and in East Baltimore to other parts of the city and focusing in on young people that we know are at high risk for incidents of violence, that's how we're going to help to expand that work. To have partners like them involved in our efforts with curfew this summer, the same way that they were partners in taking that framework that we already have from our Squeegee Collaborative, right, where we have seen squeegeeing calls drop off the face of the earth because of the work that they do each and every day, getting to those young men and young women, getting them trained, getting them in the right mental state, getting them jobs, showing them how to live a better life. That's what we mean when we're doubling down. We know we can have the impact because we've done it. We just have to help them grow that capacity to further that work.
Did you have any specifics on the question?
Well, you said you have a strategy in place.
Yes.
I'm not looking for all of it, but if you can give us an example of what you have in mind.
Yes. So what we do now, every Tuesday, we mentor up at the Langston Hughes Center, a group of young men. And then on Wednesday, we have an East Baltimore training that we do on Federal Street. Along with the training, those young men then go out with us on Saturday to walk and do community engagement so that we can share our Stop the Beef hotline. We have a 24-hour Stop the Beef hotline so that if any child or any young man needs to be helped, they could call that hotline, and there's someone on the end of that line that will respond to violence in the community. And so along with that, we make sure we're connecting the individual with jobs and any family issues that we then walk with them throughout their day-to-day walk. So that with the individuals that we're working with. So when we say doubling down, we're talking more about how do we expand that to get more individuals inside of the program. So that's what we're addressing. Okay.
What's the Stop the Beef hotline? I just want to know what the hotline is, so you can put it up there.
The Stop the Beef hotline.
The hotline, 443, 522, 4878. I can give you a flyer.
We're gonna channel 13 and quickly channel 2, we gotta run.
Real quick, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that can be done, if you're working on something for the coming summer months, is there anything that can be done today, tomorrow?
This is today. The work that they do is each and every day. If you think that someone calling that hotline, when they say, hey, we beefing with somebody over a rap verse, right? Or we beefing over somebody over something that happened in a club, or we beefing with someone that happens over something said on Instagram. If you don't think that that's an immediate thing that saves lives, I don't know what to tell you, because that's what they do each and every day. And I want to remind folks again, and they see it every day. Our police see it every day. Our violence intervention workers see it every day. People are dying over small, petty conflict. That's why we have to intercede in this way on the ground. We're also going to continue that work of focusing on people that are carrying these illegal guns, right? We're going to arrest them and we're going to give them over to the state's attorney. He'll make the determination on if it's a young person, on whether that young person should go up or they should go in a different way. That's the work that we're going to do in partnership. We're going to continue to focus on that flow of guns into the city. When we know that young people are carrying these ghost guns at high levels, we would be negligent in our duty to allow that company to just sit out there, advertise towards young people, promote those things towards young people that shouldn't have a gun, and convicted felons and otherwise. We're going to focus each and every way. We're going to have our summer camps, right? We're going to go out there and focus on teens. We're going to go out there and investing in the programs that are working. But we also know that we have to be able to have other conversations that, quite frankly, we're not really ready to have, I think, writ large, right? Because when you think about the realities of a 12-year-old getting shot with an assault rifle, that's a deep conversation to have. And when you hear from that community about what we need to do for everybody, everybody has to be held accountable in those conversations. Every part of our government is going to do our work, but we're going to do that in partnership with our community.
Channel 2?
You good?
All right,
Thank you, everybody.
All right.